Hi, I'm Michelle Cooper, and welcome to my studio. Got a sketch here of a snow-capped mountain, and I plan to make a larger painting. So first, I'm doing a preliminary sketch. I'm going to use basically cobalt blue here and my dagger brush. It's a smaller one because of the size of the sketch. So let's pre-wet the sky first. I'm going to add some more water here to my puddle and a little bit more paint. Okay, and test it. Okay, remember now the sky is pre-wet, so this paint that I just put down is going to be diluted like this a little bit. Maybe not quite as much, but it will be diluted because of the extra water on the paper. I'm looking for a nice mid-tone cobalt blue wash here. This paper is Canson XL 140-pound watercolor paper, so it's allowing the paint to spread nicely. And I'm going to get a little bit of the extra pigment from the adjoining paints into my puddle, which is nice. I want this to be somewhat of a subtly variegated wash in the sky, so it doesn't look like I just painted it on with a roller. And to just keep the wet edge moving, you can turn your brush upside down to get a nice point. That's what's nice about a dagger brush. And then flip it over again to get the broad side. Grab up some paint and cover a larger area. That's pretty much the profile of the mountain painted by putting a sky wash in. Now the next thing will be the shadow shape, the big shadow shape. That means I'm going to need a lot more paint than I did for the sky, and the new paint will need to be a lighter value than the sky so that it appears as if sunlight was reflecting off the snow. So get the same similar color, but it's going to borrow a little bit from the adjacent colors in my dish too. And I'm going to start with a pretty wet, thinned out wash, about the maybe the viscosity of tea. And I'm looking at my resource, my photo, for places I need to leave white. Most of this side of the mountaintop here is in shadow, but there are some areas catching the sunlight, especially at the top and right sides of some of these promontories. I just want to remember to keep the wet edge moving, and then I will have a continuous wash all the way through. Again, as I dip in for more of my lighter wash here, I'll be getting some color from the adjacent little blobs of paint in my dish, and that will give me some indications that look like reflected light from the snow and the sun, and keep this from being a boring wash. Again, flip your brush to the pointed side when you want to make a detail, and then flip it back over again to spread the paint out. Should be having a variety of different shapes here. Get us all the way over, just barely, with the wash that I made to start with here. All right, that's good. I wanted to mention that all the colors in the center of the dish here are transparent colors. That's the wash that I was making. The one that I have at the bottom there, that one I just touched, that's lavender, and it's a semi-opaque color. So it does make a difference in the appearance of light and shadow if you are using transparent versus opaque color. Did you see what I did over here? I actually forgot that part. And another little part right here too. So I'm just lifting it out with a thirsty brush. I've rinsed out my brush and it's clean. The paper that I'm using is kind of a soft finish on the top, and it allows me to lift off non-staining pigments. Dab it with a tissue. I don't like dabbing too much, but sometimes it's necessary. That's what I did on that extra little piece of the mountain on the left-hand side too. Here's a little area that I think would look good as sort of some reflected light happening in here. So I'm not taking as much paint off of this area. Just a little. You'll see when we put the darker rocks in. You'll see how that changes, how that looks. Just that little bit of extra light coming in there. Okay, now it's time to do the rocks. I'm using this Asian calligraphy brush with natural hair to get some dry brush effects as if the rocks were sticking up out of the snow. So first I have to get a really thick wash, get rid of excess water out of the heel of the brush, then test on the same paper. I don't want it to be that fluid. There we go. See, sideways, the brush should be sideways and not too wet. And then scrape it against the paper. And you can dot a few things into here, but don't get too excited about every little rock. It's supposed to be a painting and not a photograph, so try to get a variety of different shapes. I'm looking at my photo here just to see where are the most prominent ones. And I have modified this drawing a little bit from the photo as well, so it helps to live in an area where you get to see two mountain ranges and several large extinct volcanoes like we do here in the Seattle area. This is kind of modeled after a photograph of Pyramid Peak up in the North Cascades, but you noticed I took off one part of it. Yeah, here we go. Just take your time, make sure that you get this really good dry brush sideways effect. And the next time you go back after your paint, dab it off again on the sponge just to release extra water in the heel of the brush. And then look at your reference for basic shapes and the direction that it goes. And suddenly, when you have these dark dry brush effects that really give you the feeling of light coming on that snow now, don't they? I'm using dioxazine purple, not black, but it appears so because of the contrast here and the dry brush effect. almost finished. Just a few more rocks here and a little bit more here. And we're all done. Thanks for watching.